Super League wins its appeal, but the ARL vows to fight on. Treasurer Costello raises new questions about the sale of Telstra, and an Australian pilot freed from Somalia.
From National 9 News, this is Nightline with Peter Overton.
Good evening. Rugby League's few months of relative calm have been shattered. Rupert Murdoch's Super League today won an appeal in the federal court in Sydney, overturning the ruling earlier this year that banned the breakaway competition from playing until the year 2000. ARL officials are planning to appeal to the High Court, but admit a split competition is now a real possibility. Mark Barlin has our report.
Once again, the federal court was packed. Ken Arthurson and John Quayle making their familiar walk across Phillip Street from league headquarters.
Mark Ferguson for Nightline.
To sport now, and recapping our lead story, Super League has won its appeal to the full bench of the federal court in Sydney. It found ARL loyalty agreements breached the Trade Practices Act, the decision leaving the way open for a Super League competition next year. The ARL is now planning to appeal to the High Court. To rugby union, and two big grand finals tomorrow. In Brisbane, GPS and South clash at Ballymore, while in Sydney, Randwick take on Warringah at the football stadium.
After winning 3 sudden death matches in as many weeks,
Steve Haddon for Nightline.
And still to come on Nightline, the latest finance and the weekend weather. In finance news, the Australian share market closed just over half a point up today. In Tokyo, the Nikkei fell just over 109 points. In London tonight, the FT 100 is 13.5 points down in morning trading. Gold is fetching 380.3 US an ounce. And in European trading tonight, the Australian dollar is buying 78.99 US cents, 1.20 Deutschmarks, 88 yen and 50p.
And a new hormone treatment for breast cancer. Those stories and more tonight in 10's Late Night News at 10:30.
And in sports tonight, right after the news, a victory for the ARL with Parramatta and St George both agreeing to stay with the establishment. But the war continues, Super League demanding John Quayle apologise for accusing the Rebels of gutter tactics. And he's now a Blue. Collingwood star Mick McGuan deciding to change camps as the AFL player trading continues. Also tonight, cricket, golf, yachting and a whole lot more. So I hope you can join me for those stories and much more in sports tonight, right after the late night news.
Good evening. Tonight, the 6-year-old Cairns boy doused with petrol and set alight. Queensland police have arrested a 26-year-old South Australian man over the incident. The Prime Minister refuses to sack his Assistant Treasurer over a conflict of interest. Also tonight, the chase for Skase may not be over as the Prime Minister intervenes. And sports tonight, victory for the ARL as Parramatta and St George remain loyal. Stay on 10, those stories coming up next in the late night news.
Victoria hands over industrial relations powers to Canberra. Paul Keating enters the race debate, and John Quayle quits as Rugby League chief.
From National 9 News, this is Nightline with Jim Whaley.
Good evening. Lawmaking in Australia is usually carefully guarded. States are normally reluctant to surrender any of their powers to the government in Canberra. But in what's seen as a groundbreaking move, Victoria has turned over its industrial relations rights to the Commonwealth. For Premier Jeff Kennett, it's the chance to flick past what's been a troublesome area. Prime Minister Howard, however, sees it as a triumph of good judgment. Laurie Wilson has our report. Michael Jackson hits the town, his bride stays behind. Minister under fire over Army aid plan for Aborigines, and 2 league competitions certain as the ARL court bid fails.
From National 9 News, this is Nightline with Jim Whaley.
The battle for rugby league supremacy is now in the hands of the fans. They'll decide who's the winner now that 2 competitions seem certain for next season. The High Court today denied the ARL a final avenue of appeal against News Limited's Super League.
the ARL sought victory at any cost for its beloved code, but after a multi-million-dollar 19-month battle and to the despair of its supporters, this was the end of the line. In a hearing bristling with wigs, the league asked the nation's highest court for one more round with Super League, arguing that the Federal Court of Appeal erred in overturning the ARL's original emphatic victory. It was a last desperate attempt to keep the legal ball in play, but in the end the arguments were tenuous and often emotional, and in the view of the full bench, without the necessary merit. For the ARL, game over.
What? There is no justice in this country. None!
In the Super League camp, contrasting relief.
Fairly wearing, but at least we got there at the end. Some people don't seem to be entirely happy with it, but anyway.
It's a people's game. It belongs to us. It belongs to all Australians, not Rupert Murdoch.
We'll get on with the game now, and the battle will be on the field. The ARL's got the best competition, and I think the public will see that next year.
While the decision clears the last hurdle for Super League and the rebel clubs, the league says fans will vote with their feet. In the meantime, it says it remains committed to the ideal of a single competition. John Collis for Nightline.
The High Court has rejected an appeal by the Australian Rugby League to overturn an earlier decision and give Super League the go-ahead. It was the ARL's last chance to stop Super League from setting up a rival competition next year. The decision ensures that there will now be two competitions, with the final battle for Rugby League to be fought out on the football field. The multi-million-dollar legal stoush has taken 2 years and follows the resignation earlier this week of Chief Executive John Quayle. And of course that story in detail coming up in Sports Tonight right after the late night news. Well, when the news continues, suspected and convicted pedophiles to be listed on a national register. Former high flyer turned conman Peter Foster jailed for 18 months. And stars shine at the Australian Film Awards.
And the winner is Jeffrey Rush for Shine.
In 1997, this is Win Television, still the one.
The Anyway, it is Monday, February 24th. This is Brian Henderson. Good night.